Hey everyone, how you doing today? Topic number 2 with Anna Kelly this morning is going to be about how to diversify your rentals. And if you don't know, Anna has done some great things in the real estate space, buy and hold, but she has also adapted her portfolio to Airbnb, something I haven't done. So we're going to talk about it as how to diversify. How you doing, Anna?
I'm great today, Michael. I'm excited about this topic.
Yeah, this is one I'm looking to you for. You're going to dominate this discussion. So I guess the first thing for me to understand is, when did you first think about diversifying out of month to month or yearly or 2 yearly, signed leases? Because I haven't made that leap yet, and I'm just curious, when did you first get the inkling that you might want to consider this?
Sure, Michael. So, in my role in private banking for years ago, we talked to our clients about being diversified within all of their investment portfolios. So, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, life insurance policies, generally traditional types of investments. And then, within your stocks, you want to be in some growth funds and some international funds and some startup funds and accumulation funds and income funds, right? So you want to diversify in general any of your investments so that you can hedge changes to any one type of investment that may happen in any way. And so when I got completely out of the stock market because I realized the power of real estate, I realized that really my Achilles heel, where I had the most risk, Michael, was the fact that all of my real estate investments were in the same general region in central Pennsylvania, and they were all rental properties that people live in. So I had some singles, I had some small multis, I had some large multis, that I realized that I need to be better diversified within real estate, both geographically and in the different types of real estate that I had, so that it wasn't all long-term rental housing.
And when did you make that first leap? I guess the question for me, knowing your backstory, was this before or after retirement?
After retirement,
Okay.
for the most part, after retirement. And the reason for that, Michael, is because I was very laser focused that my primary financial goal, and this is super important, my primary was I needed to create enough stable, long-term cash flow that I could depend on it for the next 20 years and not have to depend on my job. Well, if I was buying things that aren't consistently stable year round, that would not have met my primary financial goal. And so I think thing number one is people buy properties because they think, oh, it's a good idea to buy something else, right? But it's not wise to buy something that isn't going to meet your primary financial goal or your secondary financial goal, which in my case was wealth accumulation. And in some people's case, it's asset preservation.
Yeah. And I was, if I had to guess, that would have been my answer. And for all of those reasons, and one you didn't mention, you didn't have time to learn something else, right?
Right.
Airbnb, while kind of similar to what you do, is very different. Location-based, daily rates, turns, infrastructure, all of that, very, very different. So that would have been my guess. So I think that's important for people to realize, is don't diversify early, right? Appreciate it's a part of the process. You got to your end goal and then said, okay, now I'm here. I freed up some time, more capital, more experience. Now let me diversify location and type. I don't want people to
Yes.
hear, hey, I got one rental, now I need one Airbnb. That's not what we're talking about.
Right. You're 100% correct, Michael. And in the beginning, you need to figure out what's your primary financial goal and do 90% of what you do there.
Yeah.
Get good at it, and then add something that's an easy add-on to what you already have, where you don't have a tremendous learning curve. Because anytime we have a tremendous learning curve, we also have a lot more risk because we don't know what we don't know. So we can't understand the different risks and hedge against them, right? So it does take time. So any really good business and millionaires who have multiple income streams, it's not that they have 7 income streams that are completely unrelated oftentimes. Usually they have a profit center and then they add on something that they can make more money by adding on or just tweaking it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you start off selling mattresses and you decide, hey, I'll start selling sheets and pillows too, right?
Exactly.
Things that are natural add-ons to what you already do. So for me, starting to do some short-term rentals was just taking the rentals I already have and saying, how can I, profit short-term? So my first short-term rental was a beach house that I wanted for my family's enjoyment. So we decided, hey, we'd like to have a vacation rental at the beach that we could go enjoy, but I'm not going to buy any assets where it doesn't pay for itself, right? So I need some rental income. So I was real cautious on the first one. I researched for about 6 months before I bought something. And I made sure that I got a really, really good deal on it, such that if it didn't work out as a short-term rental, I could sell it and profit, or I could put a long-term tenant in it and still make enough that it made sense. And so to me, that's very, very important as you start to think about potentially a short-term rental. Don't overpay for the thing because you think that forever you're going to be able to have that short-term rental income and it's going to look great all year round. It could go away. There's all kinds of things that HOAs decide they don't want a short-term rental, or your city decides they don't want a short-term rental, and then that income can't be produced anymore. So you have to make sure that you're investing in an area that's friendly to short-term rentals, and that you have multiple exit strategies, and just buy it as if it could be a long-term rental. And then, oh, by the way, all that short-term rental income is gravy while it lasts.
Yeah, I love that example of selling mattresses and selling sheets, because one of the most painful, I don't know, lessons from the last Great Recession is I knew somebody that was worth 10 million bucks. He was a flipper at the time, but he got so full of his own supply that he opened up a restaurant and a sunglass line. Talk about not mattresses and not sheets, right? I mean, you're good at real estate. Now you have excess cash and you do this and you do this. They weren't connected. And then once this started cracking, it just bankruptcy ensued. So,
Yeah.
And again, time, right? We talked a lot of people that watch us are full-time employees, right? They're starting their journey. I want to give you permission to focus.
Yes.
Focus is something that was very important to Anna and I throughout our 15-year journey.
Right.
We only started doing other things after the fact.
Correct. And the thing is, with short-term rentals, I knew I had some risk. I had some learning curve, but most of it was very, very similar to what I already did. So, even when I've pivoted because of the market, right? So I want the diversification, and we talked about that, the desire to be in different markets as well as different types of rental housing. And so, first I had 3 rental properties in the same beach town. So I had some diversification by being in Maryland versus being in Pennsylvania, but I still was heavily in Maryland. And what happened in the pandemic was well, 2 of my properties took a hit. The third one I bought because of property values going down, right? So if you have too many short-term rentals in one location, and then there's a pandemic and a shutdown of the city, right? And the state says, oh, by the way, nobody can come and stay that's here for vacations, you have some risk of that happening. So I knew if I'm going to buy short-term rentals, I need to buy in different locations that are not likely to all be shut down at the same time, and that draw different types of renters. So what I did in Maryland was the beach house rentals, right?
Yep.
But what I did in my multifamily is I said, hey, I've already got some multifamily properties. Let me take 1 or 2 units, furnish it, advertise those as short-term rentals for all the people that are coming to Hershey Park, the Children's Cancer Hospital, our Penn State Research Hospital.
Nice.
And looking to come to Lancaster. And let's just see how much money we can make on one of those units. So we tried it out small, right?
Yeah.
And we made more than triple net after expenses rents. So now what do? Now we have 4 of them, and we're opening up a 5th. So in 200 units, we have 5 short-term rental units. Awesome. And we're allowed to do that. And so it allows us additional profit income stream, but we didn't have to go out and buy something different, right? It's just a slight diversification to say, let's see if it works. And if it does, we'll do a few more. Right. And if it doesn't, it's no big deal. We'll convert it right back to a long-term rental.
That's awesome. So I guess the next question on this front, and again, this really is for me, right? It's kind of looking out and perhaps diversifying kind of income in areas. If you were to look at over the next 2 or 3 years, as you add units, do you think it will be a 50-50 split, kind of Airbnb short-term versus month-to-month, or you just take the deals as they come? You don't really think that way?
I'm not thinking of shifting mostly to short-term rentals. I'm not. I think that with this pandemic, it's fundamentally going to change the way that people travel and what they're willing to do. We don't know, right? Consumer sentiment changes and it's pretty fickle. And it may be that people feel really worried for another year or two, and then they might be right back to the way it was.
Yeah.
We don't know. And sometimes our memory is short and things seem better and people get more comfortable and they move on. What I do believe, Michael, is that every real estate market comes with its opportunities and its challenges. And so we need to be looking at real estate from a long term, saying that nothing is going to be just like it is today in 5 years from now, in 10 years from now, and 15 or 20 years from now. Certain things we do today are not going to be good then. And other things that we wouldn't consider today may be huge opportunities then, right?
Yeah.
So with short-term rentals, what I saw was, because of the pandemic, because of so many people hurting that overpaid for these properties at the height of the market that couldn't keep them filled, many people were slashing values or they were at risk of going to foreclosure. So I saw two opportunities that I didn't see before the pandemic. One was I could buy them at a fire sale. So because I can buy it much cheaper, I can afford that if I can't short-term rental it in the future, I can put a long-term tenant and I'm still going to do well from a cash flow perspective, even with a long-term tenant, because I bought it so much cheaper.
Nice.
And then the second thing is I saw that more and more people were still not going to Orlando, right? And going to the amusement parks and going to the big cities, Nashville, New York City, obviously. But guess what? There was a huge increase in demand for people that wanted to rent properties near water, lakes, rivers, and beaches. So I believed that fundamentally, because of this pandemic, more people want to get out of their house and they want to staycation together somewhere in nature where they can get out and breathe without a mask. And I think that that's going to continue to be something that people want to do. So if I could find a property near a lake, river, or beach that's away from the other ones I own, and I could get a really good deal on it, I know I'll be able to profit on it really well for a long time as a short-term rental. And if it goes away and I can't short-term rent them in those communities for whatever reason in the future, no big deal. I bought them right. I can sell them right. And I can sell them to an owner occupant later, or I can rent them to a long-term tenant. So it's kind of a diversification play meets what are my financial goals and where are the opportunities for today. And that's going to change every few years. So if you're thinking about diversification, say to yourself at whatever period of time is that you're out there, what opportunities are out there that I can capitalize on today that are similar to what I already do, that just have a small learning curve for the different things about it that are different from what I do today.
I think with that, we will close on it because it leads right into our third session about changing markets and you, the investor, needing to change and not being so focused that you don't change. So thank you for that, Anna. We'll get into number 3.